30 years after the world saw the brutal beating of Rodney King. I was in Los Angeles at the time, and I remember when that video was released, I thought that was going to be the moment that policing was transformed in the United States, because finally the world would see what had been happening in Black communities for over a century. But there was never a way to document it, and so the story was always the same. The person went for a gun. I was afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. That was the reason for the beating or the shooting. After Rodney King's brutal beating, nothing fundamentally changed in the country. Years later, we had cell phone cameras, and now we have seen video after video after video of people being beat and people being killed. That is the reason for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Two measures of the bill hold police officers accountable, and then other measures of the bill support raising the standards and accreditation process of policing in the United States.
8 minutes and 46 seconds of intentional knee to the neck, a public lynching, an assassination before our very eyes. George Floyd gasped his last words, "I can't breathe," and ignited a nationwide reckoning on the racial injustice and police brutality that exists in our country. I can't breathe. Since then, Americans from every corner of the country, and actually people throughout the world, have taken to the streets to peacefully protest violence against Black Americans. Yet despite these protests, violence continues. We cannot accept this epidemic of injustice, which is why we will pass and send, we have passed now, we have passed and sent to the Senate and to the President, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, so it can become the law of the land. We're proud of this legislation, which will fundamentally transform the culture with bold, unprecedented reforms, some of which the distinguished Chairwoman Bass mentioned. It will not erase centuries of systemic racism and excessive policing, and it will not bring back George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, say her name, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, or the countless others who have been killed or harmed. But it will take a tremendous step forward to stop the violence, stem the suffering, and start to build a better America. We all have respect for our men and women in blue who serve our country, protecting all of us. Said on the floor, many of them leave home to risk their lives, to save lives, to protect, to provide protection in our community. Overwhelmingly, they are not part of this culture of violence against African Americans, but nonetheless, our respect for them cannot turn into apathy against what we know is happening and that must be stopped. It must be stopped.